all weapon categories where he's in Dark Souls, like big swords, axes, hammers. Today we're going to see which one is truly the best. First off of the daggers, we have the Dark Silver Tracer. These are a DLC weapon have been acquired after trading the soul of Artorias with Lord's Blade Huron. This weapon has an S scaling for dexterity, requires a massive 25 dexterity. Well, not massive, but this dagger still is pretty good. For what the physical and the scaling is. On the straight swords, we have the Baldur's Side sword, a much likely useful sword in very difficult situations. This weapon holds a short E scaling on strength and B scaling on dexterity. 10 strength, 14 dexterity. As the weapon can be used properly, the strong attack is only thrusting, and the two-handed is also thrusting. So this sword is the best out of this weapon category. In the greatsword section, we have the Claymore, a much likely useful greatsword for any bosses, having a nice lunging thrust attack and then an upward cut for the second. Unlike in a crowd, the two-handed attacks are a nice horizontal sweep. The weapon holds C scaling for strength and dexterity. Well, because it's fire, it took off its scaling. But as you can see, the stats on the right: 16 strength, 10 dexterity. As for great swords, they always have 60 physical. With this weapon is actually pretty good. In the ultra great sword section, we have the Zweihander, pretty much everyone's favorite weapon. Out of all of the game. You can even pancake enemies to the ground. That's what I like to call it, pancaking. Out of all the ultra great swords, it does have the same damage as the great sword, even when you infuse it, reinforce it at the same level. It's just I prefer this Zweihander as your ultra great sword, or for the pancaking that it does. C, he's scaling for strength and D scaling for dexterity. Holding 24 strength and 10 dexterity. Probably one of the lightest great swords, since its weight is just 10 points of your equip load. Basically, this weapon is awesome. In the curved sword section, we have the Gold Tracer. Since curved swords are super fast while using two-handeds, they're most likely as fast as a dagger. And with this weapon, it's got bleeding damage, unlike the Dark Silver Tracer. This is also a DLC weapon, which is bought from the same DLC merchant, Lord's Blade Huron, having an E scaling for strength and A scaling for dexterity. He just has 9 strength and 25 dexterity. Obviously, this weapon is probably one of the most popular curved swords for its strong attack. A 3-hit combo. In the curved greatsword section, we have the Murakumo. A rather likely useful curved greatsword. But it doesn't have an effect like the server in the Gravelord's sword, where it's got occult energy or toxic damage. But at least still being infused, it does switch from its B he dexterity scaling to A. He want to get it up to plus 14 or higher. This weapon can be found off of a giant skeleton, which is in the beginning of the game. So this lands in first place out of the curved great swords. I did forget my katana, but if I had it, the best one would be the washing pole. In thrusting swords, we have Rickard's Rapier. A very cool thrusting sword. With a B dexterity, he's scaling. And while thrusting swords, you can still thrust even when you have your shield up. And it goes the same to spears as well. As having the shield up and attacking at the same time. Which makes thrusting swords pretty good weapons. But although some strong attacks are two-handed combos like Rickard's Rapier, and even the running attack is also a two-hit combo. Obviously, this weapon lands in first place out of all of the thrusting swords. On the axes section, we have the butcher knife. An awesome stunning weapon that drops off of Dark Spirit, Man-Eater Mildred, at the bottom of Blighttown. And while this weapon can still have a pretty good range, and it does take a B scaling to strength, 24 strength, and weighs 10 points. It's one of the two heaviest axes in the game. Wielded by the Man-Eater Butchers in the depths. But still, the weapon is good for its strong attacks. Which are most likely going to help you on your journey. So this axe lands in first place out of all of the axes. In the Great Axe section, we have the Great Axe. Some people would take the Dragon King Great Axe or the Black Knight Great Axe. But simply, this weapon only requires 32 strength and 8 dexterity, and remains the lightest Great Axe in the entire game. But still, carrying over in fusions. Fusions is still useful for any boss fight. C scaling for strength, E scaling for dexterity. This lands the best Great Axe in Dark Souls. The hammers, we have the Blacksmith Giant Hammer. A very useful hammer that does critical lightning damage, can be dropped by the Giant Blacksmith in Anor Londo. Having a descaling for strength, but it is still useful in some cases. 16 strength. This weapon in the hammer section lies beyond the best hammer and one of the best Dark Souls weapons in the entire game. Out of the Great Hammers, we have the Dragon Tooth. Unlike the Great Club, this weapon has massive physical, and is an awesome weapon. And for any of you guys who played this game, can be acquired in Anor Londo, Hovel's basement, and also coming with Hovel's Great Shield. Basically, this Great Hammer lies beyond on the rest of the Great Hammers and is one of the best. In the spears, we have the Silver Knight Spear. Also a divine weapon, and it also has its physical, for being a good one. But like the Dragon Slayer Spear, this weapon scales with C scaling on dexterity, E scaling on strength. 16 strength, 22 dexterity. Obviously, for the physical, this spear can be acquired by a Silver Knight in Anor Londo wielding a spear. Basically, this is one of the best spears. For the halberds, we have the Lifehunt Scythe, an incredibly insane bleeding damage weapon that has a massive 500 bleeding, but also gives the bleeding buildup hold up even to yourself. Although the weapon still isn't that bad for its scaling. B scaling for dexterity, E scaling for strength.